morning. I am Kevin Price. Delighted to be with you. And as usual, I have a lot to talk about on today's program. I want to get straight into it. As the listener knows, we've been working for quite some time on the whole issue of ADD and how to best address that, which is why the Price Visit has partnered with CAOOY.org and Frank Granett, who's a regular contributor on the program and on USDailyReview.com, the national news website. As together we're trying to bring some great topics and great discussion to raise the quality of the debate on how to treat ADD and ADHD. And as always, delighted to have you on, Frank. It looks like we got a great guest lined up today, and we're really excited that we get to keep you both for 2 segments.
Yeah, it's great to be on again, Kevin, and today is no exception as before. We have an expert guest with us today. Her name is Dr. Linda Lagemann. She is a licensed clinical psychologist, a clinical professor at University of California at San Francisco, Department of Medicine. And more importantly, Kevin, she's a 3-time recipient annual Teaching Excellence Award winner at that university. So she knows what she's talking about when it comes to psychology. And also she's an advisor for the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. And this is the largest, it's CCHR, the largest watchdog group regarding psychiatric treatment of children as well as adults. So, Dr. Lagemann, it's great to have you on our program today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Why don't you start off by giving us kind of an overview of your practice and your history in practice?
Well, I had 25 years in practice and seeing more and more regular people on psychotropic drugs, having more and more parents tell me distressed that their child was diagnosed with ADHD and the school says they have to put them on stimulants. As the first and only, I never had any parent tell me they were given any other options. It's just now we have moved right into medicating, and that's, I think a lot of people are becoming aware of this problem. We have 11% of all children 4 to 17 years old are now diagnosed with ADHD. And if you look at the subset of high school boys, it's 20% of all high school boys now in America are diagnosed with ADHD. That's 1 in 5. And when you refer a kid, 9 out of 10 children that are referred to a psychiatrist for evaluation leave with a prescription. The most common prescription is stimulants, amphetamines basically. So we're at a point now where we went from annual sales of stimulants in 1992 were 70 million, and by 2012 it's a $9 billion industry. And this has all kinds of adverse reactions that go with this. Stunted growth being one, but there are 31 drug regulatory agency warnings about the stimulant drugs for ADHD, including things like depression, which leads to a kid being put on a second drug, an antidepressant, but violence, hostility, aggression, suicide risk, suicide attempts, psychosis, a lot of problems with these. So how did we get here, to this situation where we have so many kids that are first line being diagnosed and the first line being very powerful Schedule II controlled substances as the treatment. And, this is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. This is it's put out by the American Psychiatric Association. And when I do seminars with mental health professionals, they are shocked to learn, even the mental health professionals, that it's those diagnoses are come to by vote. It's a work group that votes on what is a mental disorder and what's not. And there's of those people on the work group, the entire DSM panel, 70% of them have financial conflict of interest. They have direct financial ties to the pharmaceutical industry that makes the drugs to treat the things that they are diagnosing. To the point that the director of the National Institute of Mental Health, Thomas Insel, said that the DSM lacks validity. Actually, the NIMH is not going to continue funding research that is based on the DSM. But
Dr. You got to forgive us. We got a lot of questions in about an 8-minute total segment here for this time. So that was very thorough. I appreciate that background. That's really good. Go ahead with your question. Next question, Frank.
And Dr. Lagemann, you hit a good point here about education, and you're right. Even the medical community is just now, and actually it is getting better as far as psychiatrists, prominent psychiatrists across the country are now realizing, hey, listen, we got to switch gears here. We got to find the root cause, especially in our young child population, before we get to that premature drug use. And Kevin, to your point, where you're an expert, if you will, on the public policy, if you will, as far as how can we change this, and more importantly, how can we change public health policy when it comes to young children, before we go to these premature drugs. And Dr. Lagemann, I really believe that we are on a right course. There's a lot of organizations now, especially nonprofits across the country, that are banding together and helping kids get on find out that root cause with their families before we go to these premature drug modalities, if you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, absolutely. So, by the way, where is your practice located, Doctor?
My practice is in downtown San Francisco, in the financial district of San Francisco.
Yeah, very good. Frank, your question?
Well, Dr. Lagemann, the history that you have now, and you say you're basically focusing on education, and I commend you for that, because that's what it's all about. And I think if you look at where we were, let's say 5 or even 10 years ago to today, do you feel, that tide is turning where that education piece, especially for that parent that, is struggling with a young child, they want to know, well, should I medicate or should I not? What recourse do I have? Do you feel that general tide is turning? Where do you feel we're at right now?
Oh, I definitely do. I think all of these efforts, your efforts, Citizens Commission on Human Rights, all the education it's done over the years, I think more people are becoming aware that there are, that they've got to actually identify what's the actual problem. So medication as a first line, all it does is sedate a child. And as we know, it causes lots of other problems, including depression, because you are sedating a child, and that often leads to depression that gets sluggish. But I think, we recognize that medication is just sedating, and the symptoms that we're talking about, inattention and hyperactivity, are not super specific. They're not specific symptoms of a specific disorder. They can have many, many causes, and until you assess it accurately, you're not treating anything. You're just masking. So you don't know what the cause. It could be from as simple as a child is not paying attention, is looking out the window daydreaming because their parents are divorcing and they're distracted. It could be they're bored because they're super bright and the class is not moving fast enough. Sleep deprivation is a big issue. Food allergies, trauma from sports injuries, even mild head trauma can create some of these symptoms. So clearly, if you're taking something that could come from many causes and you're not identifying what the cause is, then you are not treating it.
Very interesting. We're going to need to take a break in just a minute, but before I do that, can you give us your website real quick?
I'm going to give the CCHR website because there's a ton of information on that website. CCHRINT.org, CCHRINT.org, and then mine is drlagemann.com. It's DRLAGEMANN.com.
Very good. And then you can reach Frank always at CAOOY.org. That's CAOOY.org. When we come back, much more for you right here, The Price of Business.